Hello, I'm Darren Magee, and today's video is covering several questions around the same subject. How and why do narcissistic people target and attack someone's self-confidence, their self-esteem, indeed their sense of self? Another question is, how does narcissistic abuse affect someone's self-esteem and their self-confidence? But before I begin, I would like to point out that a narcissist is not necessarily someone who can be selfish or maybe difficult to get along with from time to time. I think if we're all honest, we can all be a bit difficult once in a while. But narcissism is characterized by a sense of entitlement. There's being self-absorbed, being highly disagreeable, and they can be highly sensitive or resistant to criticism. There's also a lack of empathy for others, and can be very envious of others, as well as believing others should be envious of them. And these characteristics would be long-term, they would be persistent, they would be pervasive, if you will. They're like a default setting. Now, there are some situations, for example, maybe a workplace or maybe a social setting, where a narcissistic bully will target someone with low self-confidence, low self-esteem. They're easier to torment, they're easier to control. But there are other times, and this would be more common in, say, a personal relationship, such as a romantic relationship or a friendship, where they will target someone who is maybe quite confident, they are ambitious, they are happy, and they will chip away at them a little piece at a time. And this can involve, among other things, projection, gaslighting, psychological and emotional manipulation and abuse. So when it comes to self-esteem, self-esteem is not necessarily what I think or what I feel about me. More often than not, it's what I think others think and feel about me. For example, if you were talking to someone and they were making eye contact, they were answering your questions, laughing at your jokes, you generally feel okay. However, if you were talking to someone who just talked over the top of you, answered a completely different question, or smirked when you were trying to be serious, or just told you to shut up, you generally don't feel so good. So narcissists often attack their victim's self-esteem by leading them to believe that they're always wrong, they're not important, they're not enough to please them. They are of no relevance. Their thoughts, feelings, or experiences are not important. There's a lot of invalidation, a lack of affirmation, and a lot of negative feedback. There can be criticism over beliefs, behaviors, aspirations, even physical characteristics. Many accuse their victims of having selfish or ulterior motives for anything they do or indeed don't do. Many victims are led to believe that even their basic needs are selfish. Now, if their victim were to have some good news, maybe they've achieved something, accomplished something, for instance, maybe they've just won a marathon or something, narcissist isn't really going to mention that. It's not on their radar. They don't really care, unless, of course, it's to criticize it. Other than that, it's not worth acknowledging. They wouldn't share that good news with anyone else, showing a bit of pride in their friend or their partner, unless, of course, they get to claim some credit for it. And many narcissists often isolate their victims from their own friends, from their own family, so the only feedback they get is from the narcissist. So if someone is in a situation or a relationship with someone who continually devalues them, rejects them, criticizes them, even ignores them, of course their self-esteem is going to suffer. Remember, it's not what I think of me, it's what I think someone else thinks of me. Now, when it comes to self-confidence, I often think of self-confidence as just recognizing your qualities, your strengths, your accomplishments, but also being aware of areas where you may struggle, areas you might like to develop. A narcissist will target both. They will play down someone's strengths, their qualities, but highlight their weaknesses, their faults. As I said, narcissists can be quite envious. They see anything their victim can do or has. That might be a blow to their ego, so they often criticize and devalue them. They can behave with a self-righteous or an intellectual superiority, be very condescending and demoralizing. They lead their victims to believe that they know better than they do, or everyone else knows better than they do, and they shouldn't be making any choices or making any decisions without consulting with them first. They look for what they believe to be weaknesses in others. Now, that weakness might be just a one-time shared secret, something that didn't work out for someone, a minor embarrassment, but they find these things and they exploit them. Victims are often left feeling as if they're always on the back foot. So how and why do they do it? Well, this can happen in different ways. For example, there could be temper tantrums, there could be intimidation, there could be threats, There can also be guilt tripping and shaming and undermining and sabotaging. But there can also, and this would especially be in the early days of a relationship, they can be quite subtle, almost quite insidious. This might include withdrawing or showing, but not necessarily voicing displeasure. They may even claim good intentions like, I'm only trying to help, I'm only trying to do what's best. But generally, victims are lied to, they're confused with nonsensical reasoning, circular arguments, illogical logic. Disagreements often become emotive arguments rather than about negotiation or even problem solving. They hold their victims to unrealistic and unfair expectations and continually change the conditions, so the victims never really reach the standards that are required of them, and they often feel as if they can't do anything right. And again, when it comes to that envy, many narcissistic people only really feel good about themselves if they're feeling better than other people, but they can also be very jealous. They can be jealous over their victims' other friendships, their other relationships. I think that's often why they tend to isolate them. Narcissistic abuse can go on for years. A lot of it can be very much under the radar. It's very well hidden because the only person who sees it is the victim. Maybe the only things ever done or said in front of other people might be little jokes with Jags, which an outsider might just see as harmless fun. But the victim fears that no one's going to believe them, or if they react in some way, it might look as if they are overreacting. To answer the last question about the impact of narcissistic abuse on someone's self-confidence and self-esteem, well, first of all, I would say I don't think it helps that many narcissistic people often blame their victims on their low self-esteem and their low confidence and their low sense of self-worth. They might say things like, well, you wouldn't feel that way if you were trying a bit harder, or you wouldn't feel that way if you were a bit more like me, did what I say, or why can't you just be more positive? In the long term, many victims can find it hard to make decisions, second guess themselves a lot. Not that they're trying to make the right decision, but they fear making the wrong one. If they're still in that relationship, they may begin to hide any news at all from the narcissist, whether it's good or bad, because one is going to be criticized and the other one's going to be exploited. They also begin to hide their true thoughts, their true feelings, for fear of either invalidation or criticism. So a lot of these feelings get internalized. Now, in the short term, that's maybe not necessarily a bad thing. It might get them through a difficult moment. But in the long term, that can be quite unhealthy. There can be a lot of internalized disgust over what has happened to them. There can be a lot of shame over how they have been portrayed, how they've been painted to other people. That's not who they are. There can be a lot of anger over how they've been treated, what has happened to them. It is so damned unfair. It is so damned unjust. And when anger becomes internalized, whenever it just gets turned inwards, different things start to happen. Sometimes it can become quite dulled, and it tends to come out as depression. Other times it might become quite corrosive, so it tends to come out as resentment. Where there is depression, their energy, their enthusiasm can lower. Some stop looking after themselves. They find it difficult just to practice self-care, doing things in their own best interest. They may lose their assertiveness, find it difficult to stand up for themselves if they're being treated unfairly by others. So just accept any poor feedback or any criticism. In some cases, even their sense of humor becomes quite self-deprecating. They can feel a sense of loss over the person they once were, or perhaps the person they could have been. Develop a negative view of the world, of other people, and indeed themselves. There can be a lot of rumination over past interactions, past events, past conversations with the narcissistic person. Our brains really don't like things that don't make sense. That's why we go over things again and again. We're trying to make sense of them, trying to fill in the blanks. Narcissistic people generally don't make a lot of sense. A lot of their behavior is quite destructive and even ultimately self-defeating. Some victims of narcissistic abuse find it difficult to trust other people. It's almost like they see narcissists everywhere, even fear being a narcissist themselves. Now, if you are or have been in an unhealthy abusive relationship, I would invite you to think about contacting someone for some support, some advice. I'm going to add a few links to some organizations that might be useful in the description of this video. But counseling is a good place to start. A counselor will do what the narcissist wouldn't. They will listen to you, they will validate you, and they'll help you to tap into your own sense of self-efficacy. So that's a brief outline of how and why narcissists target people's self-esteem and their self-confidence. Now, if there's anything I haven't added, anything I've forgotten, please feel free to use the comment box below. There are some interesting conversations started around these videos. But if you find this video helpful, if you found it interesting, please consider subscribing to my channel. And until next time, thanks for watching. Before you think you're a worthless failure who will never achieve anything, before you think you're of no value to anyone and no one cares, take a look at the company you're in.